Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the office hours. Jesse Schaefer's with me today. We're going to be talking all things livestock, and she'll be able to answer your questions about livestock. I have not done a lot of livestock. I mean, a lot of horses, but not a lot of livestock. So, hey, Jesse, how are you?
Good. How are you today?
I'm good. Just got back from overseas with Elaine, and that was a great trip, and we had a lot of fun, but we're ready to go. But I do have a couple things we need to go over before we get started, if that's okay. I'll do that right now. A couple of things. At the end of this program, I'm going to pick a number, and then you can guess the number. The first person that guesses the number will receive 1 month free rent-to-rent program. So you can play with that. But someone's going to win a 1 month free rent-to-rent device. So stay tuned for that, or tell your friends so they come in and get an opportunity to participate in that giveaway at the end of the program. Okay. Also, as I posted yesterday in the practitioner page and on the Facebook page and other areas, my new book that I've written with Jack Canfield will be released for purchase on Thursday. And I'm doing something special for practitioners to participate in this program. We typically achieve bestseller status whenever we put these books together. I would love to get the #1 status on this particular book. And so here's my bonus to you, practitioners only. You may be familiar, you may have seen on Facebook or various places where you can get a hold of a card that you put up next to your phone, and it loads your business card information onto the person's phone that you are doing this to. It's called an electronic business card, and I'll show you how it works. And so what happens is they have their phone on, and you simply put the piece up to the telephone. And then if you'll see on the bottom of the telephone, a link came up. And if your customer will tap that link, let me get it so it can go, your business card will come up with all the information that you want. It's coming back up. And what they'll be able to do at that point is they can scroll your business card, and they'll get a spot where they can click to save your contact. So you can put a lot of information on there, your websites, your appointment schedule, all that type of stuff can go on this electronic business card. And so what I'm going to do, it's $100 value is what they sell these for on Facebook. And so what's happening is, if any of you choose to or would like to purchase the book on Thursday, it's $19.95. I will send you a free electronic business card, $100 value that you're going to receive for free. And so I think that's interesting and kind of exciting. What do you think, Jesse?
I love it. I kind of want one.
There you go. So what will happen is, I'll also, between now and Thursday, we'll put up a link that you will text your receipt to. So when I receive that and your information, then we will prepare and send you the card. When you receive it, all you'll have to do is open it up, and you can go in and add your picture. You can add your websites and all that to it. You can update it over time if you want to, if something changes. So it's really a sweet little deal. I love it. And when I give it to a customer, they love it. Somebody will say, "Can I have your business card?" I said, "Oh, I don't have my business cards with me, but here, let's do this. Give me your phone." And I'll tap this on their phone. If they have the NFC technology, which most all phones do today, it comes up, and they marvel. They think it's wonderful. It opens up conversation and does a lot of things. So here you go, $100 value. If you choose to purchase one of my books on Thursday, then we'll send you one of these electronic business cards. I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope it works for you. So that's that. And of course, the giveaway at the end of the show, we're going to talk about that a little more. So stay tuned for that and tell your friends. And so let's just jump into it. Jesse, let's go on. Tell us what's happening in livestock. If you have questions, folks, about livestock or anything in that regard, put it up there, and Jesse and I will take a look.
We'll tackle it for you. Know what's going on in the livestock world right now. We are show season. It doesn't matter what part of the country you're in. You're probably doing something right now, right? And it's hot. So in some of the parts of the country, we've got county fairs going on. For example, my kids checked in this morning at 6 a.m.
Oh my.
Yeah, so we're exhausted. But so you've got lots of county fairs, state fairs gearing up, or you're doing your jackpot series, or you're getting ready for national shows. So it is like just bubbling everywhere, and everybody's super excited. So it's been an absolute, just so much fun, going everywhere and seeing everybody and talking to people with all their questions. And I think one of the biggest questions I've been getting, and stop me if I'm missing something because I haven't done this before, but I'll keep rambling.
No problem. And I'm checking for questions. You go ahead.
Okay.
Tell us what questions you get.
So one of the biggest questions I've been getting is like, we've worked on these animals at home, and then or we've taken client stuff at home or done stuff, and then we get to the show and we're like, nothing's wrong. What do I do? And I'm like, that's a good thing. We can still use our MagnaWave. That's what we want to do. That's the goal. We got to the show and we look amazing. We feel amazing. And so we can still give really great sessions at the show, and it just gives you that next level performance. And it's been a really great tool. I keep telling practitioners in this heat, use your MagnaWave. It helps them digest better. It helps cool their systems down. It helps get those electrolytes in there. So a lot of the country, especially parts of Texas and down south, and not just down south, our Midwest too, have been just having these, heat is just
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So use your MagnaWave.
That's a great idea. Perfect idea, actually. Okay, let's see here. I'm seeing if we have any questions. No real questions as yet on livestock issues, but I'm sure there'll be a couple in there. So if you have a question, please put it in, and Jessie will bring her expertise to the table to answer the question. What do you see, and I know the answer to this, but with regard to people used to ask me when we first had a practitioner several years ago that did pig shows, and the question was, how's the pig going to improve if you treat it before the show? What's the deal? I don't understand. Tell us.
Yeah. So what we're going to do, what we see with these guys, and it's really interesting, especially with our pigs, because their body makeup is so much like us, right? And so it's pretty much like us. If we feel stiff after that long car ride, think about how that little guy feels after we've just traveled, 2.5 hours bouncing around in the back of the trailer. And so they get stiff and sore, and they get, some of them are very used to their pampered barns. So they get off and they just do not want to eat or drink, and that's terrible in this weather, and they're stiff and they just get grumpy. And so it just helps relax them, and it helps get them, and it's really important. That appetite piece is huge because they can get sick and stressed and have some issues during the weather. So that's how we're seeing it, how we're seeing just improving that range of motion, and not coming off with that soreness. And that's what that judge is looking for. They're looking for how well they stride out, how well they walk, all these different things. So it's really, really been game changing. I do see a question here if you want me to grab it.
Sure, go right ahead.
Do you need special clearance before going to show, or is it different per state? Ooh, great question. That is a great question. So like I said, there's all these different levels. So you've got jackpot, county fair is kind of here. And then you've got those state fair and those national shows. And so the best thing to do is to ask before you go. For example, with county fairs, every county fair is different. And what I found too is some of the county fairs that said, no, we're not really sure about it. I sat in on 2 phone calls this last week, explained what it is through speaker or Zoom, and they're fine with it. So sometimes you just have to ask permission, and that's part of our job. We're here to help you. So if you have an association that has questions, let us take the role on, right? We're happy to do that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what we're here for. So if you're unsure, there are associations that you can reach out to and check into. For example, this summer, I called the National Swine Association and a couple other national shows just to check in, and we're all good. We're all good. So if you have questions, can help as much as we can, but Association of PEMF Professionals, they're another great resource. But I always say check in, ask permission. It doesn't hurt. And if people don't know what it is, we're happy to help, right?
Well, that's absolutely right. And I've learned this early on and I'm sure it's the same type situation, but if you get a show that doesn't know and you start telling them what we're doing and how it works and so on, they may say, well, maybe not, but you get us on the phone with them, or you get the AOPP on the phone with them. The person on the other end of that phone is always an expert, always listened to, more readily trusted. So it builds your credibility to have someone who can support what you're saying. They don't think that you're just saying it so you can go to the show and treat not only your animals, but their other folks' animals and so forth. So that's very important. If you need to bring somebody in to help you, we're certainly here to do that. And the AOPP is here to do that. So that's a great resource. Jesse, thanks for talking about that.
Yeah.
You see another question? I'm not seeing many. I don't think I'm getting the same feed that you are, but that's okay. Another question for you. People used to always ask, and of course you talk about the trailer ride and how it relaxes them and keeps them cool and helps them eat and all of that. And you did get into it a little bit about going into the show ring. When I first started treating cattle at the state fair, everybody said, what are you doing? Well, not only are they relaxed, but it improves their gait, as you said, the range of motion. Tell us a little bit about that in all aspects, not only from the pig aspect, but from the larger livestock aspect.
Yeah, and too, even with these sheep and goats, the way we're holding them and bracing them and asking them to have a perfect top line, a lot of times they get muscle sore and they start, holding themselves weird. And we want a really opened up, that's why we put that MagnaWave right in the heart center, get that sternum opened up. That's why we want them set back and heads up and feeling their back. So you're using that MagnaWave, and you can see, I can almost tell you if a kid is right-handed or left-handed by where the animal is sore from the way they've been led so much, because it's just natural for us and it's not so much for them. And so you start to work on that and you just see that animal just like, oh, thank gosh, and then that kid has such a better performance too. A lot of times I've noticed that at shows, I'll be working on an animal and the animal is like, fine. There's, and I'm like, well, I don't really see what they've, been complaining about. And I'll look at the kid and they're like, just nervous. So I'll go ahead and ask the kid, like, hey, would you like a session too? Why don't you sit here for a second? Just take a deep breath and relax. So that's a really good tactic too. Like, it's a whole family deal.
And it was so intriguing that you said that about, you can almost tell if the child or whoever, the young person who's controlling this, or the adult, if they're left or right-handed, because you can tell how the animal responds. I used to get that all the time with horses. I'd treat the horse and the folks would say, well, am I done? Or are you going to have to do this again? Well, the answer is, are you going to ride the horse tomorrow? Well, sure. Then I said, or next week, then we'll probably see you in a week or so to help out. And they'd say, well, what's the issue? Well, saddle fit, leg strength, that's a big deal in the horses. As you're saying, how they lead them impacts how the animal follows. And people didn't stop and think that if you're stronger on the left leg than the right leg, that when you're guiding the animal, it has change in how the animal reacts and what you're going to need to do to keep them healthy and fresh.
I know, and I'm so glad you said that, because we have discovered with our cattle, and we've been doing a ton of cattle, our Mag Energy mat and the mat guard fits perfectly in a cattle chute. Perfectly. It is meant to go in there. They can walk right on it. So if you're using like a head gate chute, fits perfect in there. Utilize that for those front and back legs. They don't mind walking on it. It fits perfectly. There's no gap on the side. You're not going to slip or get hurt. And then if you're in a regular chute where you're grooming, we've been running it while we're grooming. Because I don't think people realize how long we spend on hair and coat and conditioning. And when they're in that chute, getting groomed, you can be doing other things. Obviously, it's hard. We can't really have the MagnaWave on their back while we're, trimming and stuff. They can stand on it and get a session for their feet. And we have had such amazing feedback from people using this with the cattle. Because they're, we trim cattle's feet, we trim goat feet. It's a big deal. It can be stressful because a lot of times they're like, if you don't know this, they get on a table and flip them over a lot of times. And so that creates some stress. And if we can, get them walking correctly, and not that you're never going to have to trim, that's not what I'm saying, but if we can utilize this tool for that, it has been awesome.
That's incredible. And you also need to think about, as we say, treat your feet, for reflexology from that perspective. That it's very, I used to treat horses and they'd be very excited or whatever, and I would often treat a leg or treat their feet, and it would relax them all over just coming from their feet. And so that's a great way to have a look at it as well. So you're, as we say, if you have a headache, treat your feet. You understand? But
I see a question.
there we did get a question about MagnaWave before hauling would help them stay relaxed as well.
Yeah, so in our barn, what we do, like what my protocol is, just to, share with everyone, and everyone has their own kind of what they do before they like go to a show. So when we're traveling long distance, especially, what our routine looks like in the morning is everyone gets their breakfast. Then after they've eaten, they go for a little walk. Then we MagnaWave, and then they get a little cool down. So we rinse them, and then they get on the trailer, and away we go. So that's our little protocol. It's been awesome. It's kept them nice and comfortable because you're stopping and giving them water in between and checking on them. And it's just been really, really great for them. So yeah, I absolutely MagnaWave before we go. And it doesn't have to be a super long session, 10 little minutes, and, keep things moving. So yeah.
There you go. There you go. That's a fantastic point to be able to approach it from that perspective. We did get a question, and I want to cover two things here. We got a question where someone's talking about MS. What we're doing on the veterinary side, on the MagnaWave side, is we're not going to answer or propose any questions about from the human aspect, because we need to be very succinct with what we say and how it's said with regard to humans. We don't want to get in trouble with the FDA because we've embraced the FDA, and so they could come back and say, well, you're talking about things on the veterinary side that you shouldn't be doing. So go to Aura Wellness, go to Facebook, search Aura Wellness, and like that page, and you can put that question there, and then we can talk about it in that space. So if you have human concerns, there's also a group associated with that page that will be launching, that you'll be able to really ask more in-depth questions, because it's a private group, and so we can talk more freely in a private atmosphere. So jump on over at some point after this is over and like the Aura Wellness page. There you go. They just put it up there for us. Thank you. And then we can really address those types of questions much clearer in that space. So if you do that, that would be wonderful. Okay, any other questions? Love the mat in the chute idea from Tracy. That's great. All right, if you have any other questions, please put them in. How about rodeos? Years ago, I'd go to Cowboy Christmas. We worked at Cowboy Christmas. Have you been there to Cowboy Christmas?
Not yet.
Oh, okay. But anyway, we used to work Cowboy Christmas, and of course, they had at that time they had the PBR, the National Finals Rodeo, and I would go to the different hotels where people were and want to treat their horses and things and want to get in with the rodeo, and they looked at me like I was nuts talking about treating cattle in the rodeo. But as it's developed over the years, we're treating the bucking bulls so they buck better. We're treating the riders, or we're treating the horses that are going to rope them and that so they can do better. So everybody's trying to get the edge there, and we're treating them all.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
It is. And the bucking bulls, we're just seeing so much success with those guys. It's incredible. And
Right.
It's really interesting too, because I think when we see the PBR and the different the television one, those guys, we don't realize how old they are. And one of the neatest pieces is that at these farms, when I was working, I approached one of the bucking bull farms, and what we started doing is MagnaWaving the yearlings and 2-year-olds in the chutes to teach them every time we go in there, it's not just to buck. And so it became a real tool at their farm. So there's different ways to, yes, it is important for them to go out there and buck, but like starting them off at a young age for that good health and wellness, and just kind of integrating it right into their program. And then it served a dual purpose in their training.
Correct. That's cool. That's so attentive to that. That's wonderful. Someone did ask the question, did we say ORAL wellness? No, it's Aura. Tony, if you'll put the link back up, folks can see that. It's Aura, AURA wellness, or Aurawell. Aurawell.com is the website. I'm looking for the Facebook Aura Wellness click through or whatever. So, okay, we got a question. What's your go-to attachment for cattle?
Oh, I love the cattle so much. And so my go-to is I do love the extra large wave wings. However, if you watch me work, I end up twisting them and just make that large loop. Is if you have that large loop, that is amazing, especially right before the show, because I like to put it, I'm big on that sternum. I think people miss that a lot when we have the loops. We just kind of walk, which is fine. We work our way back, but we miss some of those pieces. And then I really am big on the knees and wrapping it in the hocks. And I love that attachment so much. And I use it I use the Zoom paddle a ton too, because I like to get it up in those stifles and in the hocks and everything. So I would say large loop, extra large wave wing, Zoom paddle, mat. I love it all. I use it all. But do you want to see what I've been using? This is amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, I am loving this, and I never have used it before. The large wings. These are amazing. So we're all used to the big extra large wave wings, the huge ones. These are our large ones, and they fit. Guess what they fit? I can do my pigs like you can do your cattle all the way back.
Oh,
And my goats. And I am loving it. I didn't even know you could do this. And so I'm putting it on my goats, and I can clip their back feet, and they've got that on them, and it hangs. I mean, yeah. Yes, large wave wings are my favorite too right now. So I'm just,
well, think about for larger dogs.
yes, yeah.
You know, my dog only weighs 4.5 pounds, so I could I set her up the paddle, and she gets treated. But the large wave wings for a large dog, a boxer, or different, labradoodles and large poodles and all this different stuff. Great idea as a method to treat the larger dogs. Perfect.
Well, and too with these, I noticed like our practitioners who are working in the show are working at a farm, are working in the barns, and you're trying to do several in a day. This can really be utilized to kind of speed up your process a little bit, and to get everywhere and to work everything out, just like those extra large wave wings are designed to do with our horses and our cattle and our bigger stuff. And so these are awesome for your pigs, your goats, your sheep, your large dogs, all of that. I love it.
That's great. That's perfect. I didn't think about that for the pigs and the goats and the dogs. Okay. Any other questions, folks? They are great. Oh, talking about next horses. I do all the minis with them.
The minis. I didn't even think of it.
Yeah, on a human without twisting anything. There you go. So that's perfect. If you have another question, please put it up there, and we'd be happy to answer it. Or do you have anything that people should avoid when they're if they've never done livestock and they want to work with livestock? Two questions. How do they enter into that? How should they learn to do the livestock comfortably? You don't want to do something where someone thinks, well, he or she really never done this, and they don't look like they know what they're doing, so what they're doing can't be right. So you need to develop your methods first. How would they do that other than going to a farm and treating a bunch of animals and learning from that perspective?
Yeah, it's okay to reach out to other practitioners and ask permission, possibly to shadow or get their feedback. I think we can all, we're a community, not a competition, and I think we can all really benefit from working together. And if someone has amazing equine experience and you have amazing cattle experience, we can merge that together. So that's always a really good option. I also think one of the greatest things is to start small, maybe volunteer somewhere. So there's a lot of rescues that have, animals that you can work on and volunteer your time, build a rapport with the vets there, And, a lot of them have, sheep that have been injured, or, livestock right there that you can, you can work with and kind of see what works and what doesn't work. I always tell practitioners, I think they get really nervous with this technology. We're never going to hurt anything. We just want to, we want to look professional and do our best. And I think when we start, we can all be a little nervous. So I always kind of follow this rule of thumb when I'm starting, no matter what animal it is. I always start on the shoulders. We do, we always talk about that blood flow and pulling it, towards from top to bottom. But if we go throwing that, loop right up by our neck or our head, that can be a little, that sound and everything. So just kind of start on the shoulders, start calmly, and just kind of work your way back and divide the animal up into sections. And I always tell practitioners, yes, why there might be this huge puffy hawk or something, and we are going to address that. Whatever you do on one side, do on the other. Balance that animal. Because a lot of times when we're lame on our right hind, we've got a left shoulder issue. So just really be cognizant of balancing and doing that. If you don't know and you do a full body session, you can't go wrong, right? Like you can't. So just having that confidence and going out there and doing it. I think when it's hot like this, I do like to see maybe lighter, lower sessions if we don't know the animal, just because we don't know sometimes our client, what they've been feeding, and if we have an adverse detox reaction. So just lighter, lower sessions when it's hot, lots of electrolytes, keeping them cool, making sure the fans are on them, all that good stuff. Just good animal husbandry in general.
Sure. Tracy asked the question, Jesse, do you utilize the LZR in your program?
Oh, absolutely. So, okay, I've done it a couple different ways. So, for example, I have cattle right now that everybody's gearing up for these shows, and so they're removing warts, or so there's been a lot of ringworm this year with cattle, and so I've been utilizing it like that. In those situations, I'm doing the LZR first because I find it's like that really quick, really easy pain relief, and then going in with the MagnaWave. That's what I've been doing. I always do when I have those puffy joints and stuff, same thing. And I'm just doing like, if this was like your knee, I'm like 1 minute here, 1 minute the other side, maybe a minute in front, depending on how the animal's standing. Doesn't have to be that total 3 minutes, just to give you an idea that I'm not just, one way, just kind of keep moving it. Or like they say in the protocol, the painting is really good for it. But yeah, I use it a lot. It's really great.
Well, and the other thing to that is that a lot of people don't think about is the heat from the LZR, and the light and the heat actually changes the viscosity of the blood, and it allows it to flow more freely. And so if you heat the area up a little bit that you want to be working on with the light and the heat from the device, and I don't mean hot, but heat it up, and it changes the viscosity. Then when you go after it with the MagnaWave, you put a wrap around it or whatever you're doing, paddle, whatever you're using, it'll help flow the blood through the whole area as well, help the whole blood flow. So a warmed blood changes the viscosity for better flow.
Yeah, and too, sometimes some of these skin issues can be itchy or annoying, and so you put the MagnaWave on there and it's moving, and the animal's just like and so this just kind of helps, like just kind of tone everything down, and I love it. We've noticed, especially on like our goats and pigs, that can have kind of funky skin funguses, just blanket. We'll just not without going into it's really helped. And so we're seeing things that would take 3 to 5 days to heal. It's gone in 48 hours. So it's just been awesome.
Do you use the HydroWave at all, or some type of disinfectant?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in fact, for us personally, for our personal stock, when we go to the shows, people spend a lot of money on different electrolytes and different things, and that's fine. But this is what my guys get, a cup in their bucket water. This is what they're drinking to keep them on. And kind of didn't want to give out my show secrets, Pat. We've been with it.
No, I'm sorry. There
But
you
yes,
go.
and it does, and we do use it topically, but I guess we've been using it like that with a lot of success, and these guys have just been staying on feed in this heat, so we've been really, really lucky.
Yeah. Question comes up. Does muscle twitches during a session mean a soreness area in the horses? I'll go into that, and then Jesse, I want you to follow up. When I used to treat regularly, I would use the butterfly or the paddle, and I would, what I always called, scan the animal on a moderate setting. And as you're moving down the animal, you're not seeing any movement until you come to an area of sensitivity, and then you will see a twitch. And that kind of tells you that there's something in that area. Now, when I say that, you can turn the device to the point that you cause muscle movement, which is okay if you're massaging the area or you want to treat the animal. But if you want to find the areas of sensitivity, you scan them, find them, treat that area and around the area, so you can keep everything moving very smoothly in that regard. Jesse?
Yeah, and same thing. And two, I guess one of the things I've noticed is, and it's fine. I get a lot of calls. They're always moving in their stomach, and yeah, you're gonna see that on some of these animals, especially some of our, market animals like our barrows or our steers, and so that doesn't necessarily mean their stomach is sore. They're gonna have different areas of the body that are gonna react a little bit differently. So kind of keep that in mind too. But yeah, absolutely. I love it so much to scan. And we do the same thing with all our livestock. And then we're finding that spot. And it's so funny because you'll kind of, the owners, can I say this? One of the biggest things that I've been talking to practitioners about, especially when they go to shows, is they'll have a new client and the client says, come over, come work on my whatever animal it is. And they just hop in the pen and start working. And I tell them, I say, no, that's not what we're going to do. We're going to build a relationship, even though this is a new client. Ask them a couple different questions. What's been going on? What am I seeing? And then what we're going to do is we're going to say, could you please walk that animal for me, right? These animals are standing. You're having this client conversation telling you this left shoulder is off or this isn't working correctly or this. You need to kind of walk it and see for yourself, because a lot of times what their perception is not what you're going to see, and that's okay. It also, for me, creates a little bit of that warmth and that movement in the animal, and you can kind of see how they're moving off. Like, are they just stiff for those two first steps and then they're fine? They've just been, it's like you or I, if we, sit the wrong way and we have to kind of shake it out. And then I have them put the animal back and then I start working. And I think that's really game changing and kind of that next level for our practitioners. So I would start implementing that into your program when you meet new people. Just don't hop in there and throw that loop on that pig. Like, let's go for a little walk, see what's really going on, talk to her. And then when you come back and you put it on and you're like, okay, you're right. This left shoulder is pretty sensitive. And you're seeing that movement.
Two things to that. I want to back up just 1 second. When we were talking about scanning and finding and treating and talking about muscle twitching, and I just need to cover this one more time. There are occasions that you will treat an animal and you'll take the coil off and the muscle will continue to twitch. And that's basically, they need electrolytes, they need hydration, they need something like that. So you always want to keep in mind that can happen for a period of time after a treatment if their body chemistry is just right and they need that extra electrolyte or the hydration that could be there. And coming back to the point that you just made, I used to treat racehorses and performance horses, and I do the treatment, we do everything, and then they'd walk the animal down the shed row or down outside, wherever they are, and they'd look at me and said, well, they're still gimping a little bit. Well, they'd get down to the end of the shed row, they'd turn the horse around, the horse would finally realize, hey, this doesn't hurt anymore, so they start walking normally or the way you want them to. They have muscle memory. So you treat them, the muscles will remember that they were gimping before the session. So when the session's over, they'll gimp off and then they'll say, oh, I'm okay. kind of like you were saying that you'll stretch or you do something like that. So you always want to keep that in mind as well.
And we've been seeing a lot of movement when we've been removing the attachments this summer with different animals because of the heat and missing different supplements and electrolytes and different things. So we never treat or diagnose, but just make them aware something's missing there, need some more water and it's been a really big issue. And it's not something I get a lot of people get super alarmed, and it's like, no, it's just their way of telling us, we don't feel good. We need a little more.
Right. Absolutely. And so we're covering some great topics. So I really appreciate your depth of knowledge in that. Someone asked a question for you specifically. With lambs and goats, what is your go-to overall session time and intensity?
Okay, so if I would love it if you could tell me what machine you have, and I could know. I have just about everything we've been messing around with. So goats and lambs during this heat, I book for 20 minutes and it's less than that. So if that gives you an idea of like you're booking for 20 minutes, talking to the owner, doing a couple different things, your hands-on is anywhere from 15 or less, just because they don't. And I say that without like, there's no major issue. There's no like, we need to spend 5 minutes on this hawk or something. So if we are just doing this maintenance session, that's what it looks like. As far as intensity, I'm always going to, I hate to like say this is the number, but I think that's what people look for. I'm not ever very high. I'm 2 or 3s on these guys. I'm just about all the machines. But more importantly than that number, what we're looking for is just where they're comfortable, right? And we talk about that a lot. Just that gentle movement, they're comfortable, they'll tell you. Biggest problem I see on goats and sheep, I don't care if you're working on a stanchion, that's fine. We brace these guys and hold them up like this when they're on the stanchion, that's fine. I just like them to relax a little. Okay, because like think about that. If you're stretching the whole time when you're like, not that they can't be, but I just like them to relax a little or be on the ground tied. That's fine too. And we really need to take that small butterfly loop or large loop or whatever we have and do under their necks, right? In that heart center, and that'll help them step back, right? Because they hurt back here because we're pulling them forward and they roll in. And then they have, their legs don't look right, and we can get them to like open up. It's also really good for like their lymphatic system and it's in their heart. It's just like a good place to start. So that's where I start there. And then I kind of walk back and work back these. And I spend a lot of time. I make, I think you call it the hot dog.
Yeah, right.
Hot dog on their back.
Yeah, exactly.
I do that with these guys all the time because like that large loop just fits perfect on their back. You're getting right down the spine, which is exactly where the judge is going to touch. That's what they're looking for. And so if we can get that blood flow there and get it looking good and make sure we don't have, because they want it so perfectly level. And if we can get all that blood flow there and get it feeling good, and then that just like, these guys are like anomalies with these beautiful bodies and these little legs. And so you need them to stand correctly, and it can get a little hard. And so if you're as strong, in my opinion, you're as strong as your spine is. And so if we can focus on that, it really corrects the rest of the body.
Perfect.
Too much. Sorry, I talked too much.
No, you did great. And I want to say one other thing. When you talked about your treatment time, 10 to 15 minutes. Some of the folks that are with us today are new, and quite often they'll go into an animal or to be working with animals, and they're very concerned. They want it to work, and their routine becomes 45 minutes or longer in some cases. And then they used to call me and say, well, what am I going to do? I'm spending an hour on these horses. And I say, I only spend 20 minutes doing the basic overall whole body. And they'd say, well, I do 45 minutes to an hour. And then if they wanted to cut it back, the people think, oh, you're taking away from me. So the logic is base your treatment on where you can do a full body treatment, as Jesse's talking about, in 15, 20 minutes. And then if you have an issue, when you give somebody time, it's wonderful. You're the best person. You're so smart and so good. You give them an extra, if you need to, because you're going to work on feet or you're going to work on a particular ankle or whatever, stifle, whatever the situation may be, you give them an extra 10 or 15 minutes. They love it. You cannot take it away. If your treatments are 45 minutes to an hour, that's what they're going to be, and that's what people are going to expect, and it doesn't have to be that length of time. Just want to say that for those who are new. Okay, we've been working with a horse with HX of Cushing's. It seems like she is more sensitive this summer. Question, whether it is the heat or the fact that owner had her shaved when she was hairy this winter. It didn't as much as fasculations. That's a pretty good question. It could be the heat. You know, heat causes a lot of issues with the animals. You think, Jesse?
Yeah, it absolutely does. So we have it's also with Cushing's, it's also age dependent, and there's a lot of other factors, and the vet and the medicine we're on and all that kind of. So you got to get your vet involved and kind of check in with them without having more information, and you don't ever want to speculate, but that age, that heat, you know, and two, you know, shaving, I understand why we do it. We did a lot of body clipping growing up, and I get it during the summer months and stuff. Could be a factor, could not be a factor. Sometimes Cushing's horses develop a lot of other issues to go with it. Sometimes it's not just Cushing's. So, but yes, I do think I understand what you're saying. Like, we're shaved, we're putting that MagnaWave on. Am I aggravating her more or less? I highly doubt it. There's
Right.
probably something a little more going on.
Sure, absolutely. Question, in standard bred racing, can full body sessions be done daily? I can take that one for starters. When I first started and people would see the results immediately, they would have me treat their horses every day. And I'd go to, and the show horses would be the same thing. If the show started on Wednesday and they set up on Tuesday, I'd treat Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday before the Grand Prix or whatever where they were doing. Doesn't hurt to do that. In a lot of those situations, that you then find that it's not necessary to do it every day. You might do it if they're going to, if the competition or the show is on Saturday, you might do it Wednesday, see how they perform on Thursday. You may need to come back and give them a little push on Friday. And so, because every horse is different. Can you do it every day? Sure. You're not going to detox those animals like you could detox a person. But so that is your thoughts, please.
Yeah, no, I'm the exact same way. And the only reason I ever tell my practitioners not every day is because I want them to take a day off, you know? And so it's not necessarily for the animal. And if you want to do the standard bred and the horses all the time, especially, I mean, the way these guys are moving and you can do and that's one of the greatest things. The people who do these sessions every day, they're not necessarily doing the full body sessions. They're doing like, we're doing legs on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We're doing, you know what I mean? And it's like it's become a workout situation, just like for us, you know, we're like upper body, lower body, this, you know, and so they have a different program. So I would say make sure you're changing it up, like we talk about all the time, you know, different intensities, different ways to get in and work with the tissue and different things. So if that is something someone wants and it's, you know, there's at that next level, just, you know, take good notes and make a help me a plan. Get a plan. There we go.
Got a question for you. Do you also work on your herding dog and clients' herding dogs? Where do the herding dogs have the most areas of stress?
Yes. Okay, so we have a herding dog. They're naughty. they're I don't think they're ever not sore, but it's really interesting because they are very stoic dogs, right? And so what I found with our herding dogs, and if anyone, I mean, when I say stoic, it's like they protect you. That is their job when they are working the cattle, sheep, whatever you're working. That's their job. They are there. They are to make sure you don't get hurt. And so when I say stoic, they will go with, cracked pads. They will go, and, they will just go, go, go until they drop. And so what I found with the herding dogs is for ours, we have that Mag Energy mat, and we just turn it on and put her on it, and we're like, there you go. And it can even be under their kennel, because sometimes these guys, when they're done at night, they're done. They're a working breed. They're done. I want to be. So I think we kind of forget about that, and we think we have to be hands on all the time. And that's great and works for a lot of our pets, for our working dogs. It's okay to put that right under the kennel, turn it on, and walk away, and they love it. So there's different ways to give these guys sessions. So where do they have the most soreness? I would say absolutely in their backs, because they're jumping, but the most overlooked place is absolutely the tendons in their pads. Absolutely overlooked. And if we think about all the ways they're moving here and their joints and everything, we just overlook dogs' legs for some reason. I don't know why. We don't on horses or livestock, but on dogs, it's just, we're just kind of like, okay, you did your body, good dog. And so kind of rethink things that way.
Right, absolutely. We have a question talking about, yes, if more frequent, is it targeted? For sure. If you have an animal that has a particular chronic situation, that the more often you do it, the better that situation is. I can give you 2 examples. I had a racehorse that had a paralyzed flap, so it really impacted its breathing when it was on the track. And by the one section paralyzed meant it overworked the other sessions, and so the horse would roar, or the horse would really have a difficulty breathing. We treated that horse anytime it was working. When I say working, particularly prior to a race, we would treat the neck area and the esophagus every day, right up to the day before the race, depending on the state regulations, if we could treat race day or not. But we would treat that animal right up to the day of performance or the day of a race for that neck situation. I had another racehorse that had an injury and had a lot of I just had the word and then I just lost it. But atrophy, thank you, Pat. It had atrophy real bad in its. I mean, there was a dip in the horse's hip, and but if we would treat that, it would not be as sore, and the horse would run perfectly and would win races, but still with that huge atrophied muscle area. So the horse was sold or claimed in a claiming race. And of course, the practitioner and I talked to the new owner. Well, you need to pick this horse because it'll be, you guys are nuts. I'm not going to do that. The horse never did perform well again until someone figured out that they needed to come back and do it. We weren't just trying to get money. We were trying to help the horse be more effective. Let's see. There we go. They have 3 border collies. All right. Any other questions? Put them on. We're nearly running out of town. We're going to have to do out of time, not out of town. We just got back in town. We're going to do our giveaway here in a minute. But if you have another question, please put it up there. What would be your point of something that people don't ask you that they should?
Working with chiropractors and acupuncture. It's becoming very, very popular in the livestock world, and people are just like, how do I schedule? When should I? And it's just, and it's really great because I've got to have dynamic conversations with the top animal chiropractors in the country. The last 2 weeks, I got to run into 2 of them at different shows and ask them how they're doing things. And then a lot of the people are doing acupuncture. We actually were one of the first, I shouldn't say first because it's been done before, but we've been using the acupuncture on the pigs out here. And that's just something you don't see very often. And so how does it work with MagnaWave, right? Because we know we can layer these modalities, and we know we can all work together as a wellness community, right? And so what we should be doing is if we know the animal's having chiropractic, we should reach out or have the client reach out and ask them how they would like our protocols. And I can tell you what happened in my situation when I started talking to the especially the chiropractors. And everyone's different, so I'll just tell you in my situation what happened. They wanted me to come in and for like 5 minutes kind of do a little loosen up on that steer, or sheep or pig. And then they would adjust, and then they wanted me to go back through and finish up my session. And what we found was it lasted longer. It lasted longer. And with acupuncture, the only thing that I've ever had requested is 24 hours out, please don't, because I had a little bit of trouble finding the spots, right? That's it. That's all I've, and I just, people, it's there, it's coming there. We can work with these other professionals and create relationships and build our businesses. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, no, that's perfect. You're absolutely right. On the acupuncture, I was going to bring that point up. I one time we were treating racehorses for this trainer, and we'd go through the barn, and he said to me one day, we were treating the horses, he said, I'm having the acupuncturist come this afternoon. And I thought, uh-oh, it's going to be an issue because we're relaxing everything. We're making a lot of this stuff flow, and the acupuncturist shows up and they can't find what they're looking for, even though they know where it may be. And so those kind of situations. And we had a practitioner, he's gone now, but he passed away, but his wife was a chiropractor. And so they would work a show. He would treat the animal for 10 minutes. She would do her treatment and manipulation. Then he would come back and finish his treatment for 10 or 15 minutes. And the results were absolutely incredible. Mm-hmm. And so those are some things that you can do. Absolutely. Great. Well, thank you for those are great questions. And people, I once had a chiropractor. I was in Phoenix, Arizona, doing some demonstrations, and the chiropractor showed up and says, "You can't make this horse any better." So I said, "Okay, what's your biggest challenge with this horse?" He said, "Well, his neck. I can't get him to stretch around, and so he tries to do this, and he's going to adjust it, and the horse is fighting him because his neck is so sore." And I said, "Give me 10 minutes." And he backed up, kind of laughed at me. And I simply treated this front shoulder area and the neck of the animal. He walked up to the horse and stretched it all the way around to where he nearly was able to stretch to his hips. And then he did his adjustment, and the horse loved it. And so those are the kind of things that occur that you can also talk about when you're with somebody. Tell a story or give them that example and show them, because it'll work.
Okay. And building those relationships with, we do have a question here, I think.
All right. Go ahead. You see it? I don't see it.
Yes, it's becoming popular. I'm assuming. Okay, so it's becoming popular, but the major stock shows here in Texas won't allow MagnaWave or cryo on the grounds during the show. Yeah, absolutely. And so couple different things, and I know we have to wrap up here, but definitely feel free to call me and I can walk you through some things that are happening with major stock shows. So Lauren's on it. Association of PEMF Professionals is working with them. I love to tell this story. A lot of times when these major shows don't allow MagnaWave, it has zero to do with the technology, zero. And I'll just give this brief story because I know we're on a time crunch here, but the Iowa State Fair where we are used to allow it, and then it was a hard no, right? So I went and I talked to the professionals, right? And so I go to the gal who's in PR, right? And she's like, "Are you kidding me right now?" She's like, "I've had 2 people tell me they don't think the goat should be braced like this." She's like, "They don't want the pigs led with whips. She's like, they don't understand what they're seeing." And she's like, "I can't tell people and explain to everyone." And she's like, it has zero to do with what PEMF is. It's just, she's like, it just makes my life easier. Okay, fair. And then I would talk to the vet, and the vet was like, "Jess," she's like, "I have to go to every pen every time a horse gets bute, every time a pig needs matrix, I can't stand there for 20 minutes. She goes, "You know, I own one." And so a lot of times with these shows, it doesn't have to do with the technology. It just has to do with the way they're running it. And so we just be respectful. And I always remind everyone, these animals typically peak in 72 hours. So meet your practitioners right there. I would go to, in whatever grocery store you have, the Hy-Vee, Publix, whatever, I would set up there. I gave the staff a couple Starbucks gift cards because you're checking in between 4 in the morning and 6 a.m. And I would have trailer after trailer come in and I would work on the pigs or the sheep or whatever. And then everybody would go get in line. It was perfect. So just get creative. We're working on it. If it is a situation where it's truly they don't understand it, Lauren's on it, and we've given our full support, and we've talked to many people. But a lot of times it may not change, and that's okay. That's okay. Everybody's got to run their show a little different, and we just don't get too worked up about it.
Perfect. Absolutely. And that's so true. Just be patient and let it work out. Racehorses, we don't treat day of the race, but we treat right up to it, and that carries them right through the race time. So that's wonderful. And it's just the way it is. And great advice, Jesse. Thank you so much. Okay, a couple of things here before we close. If Tony will throw this up, go to Aura Wellness Facebook page and like it, and then we can talk more human aspect in the Aura area, which is the human devices that we have that you can use to treat people. And there's a whole thing there that we can discuss. But at any rate, so go over there and do that. Also, the number, by the way, that I have is between 1 and 100, and the first person to put the number into the chat box will win a 1 month's free rental of a rent-to-rent device. So I have the number on my paper. I know what it is. You can start putting it in. Also, remember, my book launches Thursday, and if you buy the book on Thursday and send me a receipt, we'll get to where to tell you where to send the receipt tomorrow. You will receive a business card reader, electronic business card reader that you'll be able. It'll come up on your screen when you tap it, and then they can tap that, and your business card will pop up so they can see exactly what you're doing. So $100 value, purchase one of my books, help us make number one, and it'll be a good deal. Oh boy, the numbers are coming in. Let me see if someone's hit it already.
Just pick one number, I think, right?
One number. I've picked a number. I don't see it. What is the number? I don't see it yet. Let me look. Come on, put them in there. Let's see where they started. No.
Lord.
Nope, somebody's close. Somebody's close. I don't see it. Okay, here's where they started coming in. Let me come up again. Keep putting them in. I don't see it.
It's funny how close they are.
Oh my goodness, they're going. Oh, so close. But nobody's hit it. Nobody's hit it.
Not yet?
No. Well, they're happening so fast, I'm having trouble keeping up with it.
I know. Keep going.
I'm going. It's not there. Oh, so close. Not there. Come on, folks. Somebody's got to get this one. Okay, well, Tony can go through, but we're out of time. We got to go now. If nobody gets it, we'll have to do it again next week. But I just want to keep looking here real quick. Somebody's going, oh, God, so close. I can't believe it. Oh, my goodness. Well, we're going to notify you. If somebody puts that number in, I'm not going to tell you because people are going to keep trying to put it in. But I'm at the top, and they're still doing it. And, oh, somebody got it. Let's see. Looks like we're going to make sure that this is the only one. This is the first one. The first one that put it in, we'll get it if I missed it. But I've got the number was 36, and it's in there. Linnea Cobble, I hope I pronounced that properly. Looks like that's the first one. If it's not, we'll understand. But there you go. Great.
Congrats.
Jesse, I want to thank you so much.
Hey, anytime.
Your knowledge and what you're doing in the livestock industry is incredible, and it's given a lot of motivation to a lot of folks who wondered about being able to do that. So again, I thank you so much for being with us today and giving us your information. So have a great day, everybody. Thank you for being here. Wave on to better health. Go all the way with MagnaWave and have a beautiful day. We love you guys.